Hey everyone. Well, we're back here again. Actually, I have some notes here that I'm going to want to do on this video. And the title of this one is going to be Soul to Soul Connections, Templating, and the elimination of mental disorders. Now, the way I want to start this video off is, first of all, by saying to everybody that if you're looking for assistance in regards to your journey with the relationship situation, be it twin flame soulmates or whatever, you can reach us at goldraytwinflames.com. Our website is still under construction, but the card is there with all of the information that you may need. All right. Now, one of the things that I wanted to mention here in this video before we start is what I'm not going to do is get into the situation here of spiritual awakening, Kundalini awakening, and people experiencing mental disorders, and giving the traditional expression and belief systems and information that come with it. We all well know, for most of us who have begun a Kundalini awakening or spiritual awakening, that we have suffered from psychotic and various mental disorders, depression, anxiety, panic attacks, entity attacks, you name it. We've all experienced it in varying degrees. And for some of us who are even less fortunate, we ended up in the round room with the padded walls and ended up having pharmaceuticals put into our bodies and being under the care of a medical profession that knows absolutely nothing about Kundalini, nothing about spiritual awakening, and knows nothing about the damage that pharmaceutical drugs can do to the very delicate sheath bodies within the etheric body that are beginning to cleanse and purge itself of damaging programming and input that's been there for no one knows how long. That's not the direction that I want to go in. The situation that has been happening, I mentioned this in my last video, of templating. And templating, exchange to another, is going to become a very prominent and a very common thing in the not too distant future, and I want to talk about it. You've heard me mention in the last video that I did that you could, at some point, go into your meditative state and you could reach out and say, well, I have this type of a situation going on with me. I've been, abused. I've been sexually abused in this way. I'm just using this as an example. So somewhere out there, there must be an individual who's gone through the same thing that I have. And can I draw that person toward me, either from an esoteric or from an etheric or from a non-physical perspective, or even to a physical connection with that person? And can we exchange and share information and template that will eliminate the experience from me? This particular pattern is now what I want to talk about. All right. And this in itself is going to become the norm in the future. And it's one of the things that's going to break up, as it were, a lot of the patterns in regards to the love, relationship, and sexuality groups that are hung up on this relationship template that we have going on the planet right now. The relationship situation that we have on the planet right now is, as many of you know, and I've said this many times before, the basis or the premise of our society as a whole, for what it's worth. Nothing happens on this planet that doesn't originate from a relationship. There's nothing in our society that doesn't originate from a relationship. There is nothing, any religion, every political structure, all has the basis of relationship around it. And as we all well know, that the relationship template is very, very badly influenced, all right, by all kinds of control mechanisms, religious indoctrination that has been there for thousands of years. You can go into any social media group, any twin flame group, any soulmate group, and you can find the dogma, you can find the manipulation, the control, the programming that's so obvious to see in people, all right, as they talk about the situation of relationship. So let me bring this into perspective here for you a little bit, all right? Part and parcel of the templating aspect means that there are people right now on the planet who, bless them, through their experience, through their exposure, through their personal hands-on experience, have gone through, shall we say, the deprogramming or the letting go of all of their old concepts. And I'm going to focus just on relationships here for a moment to kind of give everybody something that they can wrap their heads around. The whole relationship template, and they've dropped this piece, or they've dropped that layer, and they've dropped this layer, and they've dropped that layer. Until finally what happens is they don't even want to associate anymore in any of the social media groups, twin flames and soulmate groups, because they can't handle the people that are there who are still hung up on all of these old belief systems, dogmas, and tradition, and the expression thereof. All right. And I must add, this is one of the biggest problems that I had when I came up on YouTube 10 years ago. Because I was so different at that particular point in time, Nicole and I were considered radicals. We were the sons and daughters of Satan. We were the devil incarnate because we were so different and presenting a whole different bunch of concepts. Now what's happened is we've been here 10 years, and now we see other people have come along. And what's happened is they have picked up on our information, retooled it, respinned it, and I noticed a cycle on YouTube now. All you're seeing is the same videos being done over and over and over again in that perspective. So there's a loop that's been caught in that perspective. So what happens, new templating needs to be done. So these people that have done this thing with the relationships, and I'm speaking here specifically here of what I call the original twin flame, they have set the tone for the relationship template. That relationship template can be transferred or templated to other people through information, simply from being in their presence, or by definition, can be templated individual through a soul-to-soul connection with a person. Now, that aspect of being able to template a person, I want to get into this for a moment here. Recently, what's been happening is more and more of these people that have been here going through this process of evolution have come to discover and believe, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that there's a whole lot more to them than just the physical body and the state of consciousness that they previously existed in. That being awareness that there is a mental body, an emotional body, a physical body, a etheric body, and a soul body. All right, that's the basic ones that are there. I mean, you can add in a couple of others there. Some of the esoteric people would do that. They'll probably want to correct me. That's okay. I don't have a problem with that. But on the other hand, there are also those that have now come to the point to understand that they have expressions or extensions of self that are here in the physical in addition to their present physical body, and are in different timelines and different realities. And these personalities have all been selected, or entities or beings have been, shall we say, come from the original oversoul self and expressed in these realities and aspects of personality, or to develop certain skills, certain aspects of personality certain attributes of a multidimensional being. And what has happened at this particular point is there are some people on the planet right now who are beginning to incorporate within their energetic bodies these aspects or entities or beings, which is part of their original self, into their physical embodiment. And what is happening at this particular point is, as they have let go of all of these old mental attributes. Now, mental attributes can be, all right, anxiety, depression, psychotic situations or psychotic aspects of mind. And these types of things are simply aspects of the mental body that have not come to fruition because of negative or non-functional or self-induced pharmaceuticals, chemicals, additives that have put the situation or the person into a state of regression as opposed to progression as the Kundalini energy has moved through their bodies. All right. And this is the problem with our society as a whole. We are not, in general terms, in our society, oriented towards evolutionary spiritual growth or Kundalini awakening per se. All right. So this is what has caused the mental disorders to function. However, at this particular point, what is happening is now we have some people who have begun to incorporate these extensions of self. Whether you believe me or not is irrelevant. Okay, I'm just giving you information as to what's coming and what's going to be possible. And what is now coming into play is these individuals are now incorporating these aspects of personality. And the aspects of personality are now functional through what you would call the 12 chakra system. Now, when I say the 12 chakra system, I'm talking about a system of chakras that exists not within the physical body, but within the etheric body, which is the duplicate of the physical, which holds it into three-dimensional density, but which is evolving slowly also. So what happens is, as the person begins to move up, say from three-dimensional reality to, say, let's say 4 or 5, then what happens, some of these essences or extensions of self that are living in timelines, different realities, and even in the physical, can be incorporated into their embodiment, not as a physical body, but as an energetic body with all of the development. Let me put it another way so that you can understand. If you have an out-of-body experience, you have left your physical body in a second body. That second body contains your consciousness, okay? So imagine that the original you has 12, in some cases a few more, but 12 to 13 of these main bodies, and each one of these bodies is exploring or experiencing lifelines or timelines in different dimensions. And you were never aware of it, all right? But suddenly, you've grown and evolved and you've let go of the three-dimensional reality enough. You have moved beyond simply existing for the experience of being in a relationship with the one, and you understand that life is much more than what we're seeing on this planet. It is much more than what we're being on this planet, and it is much more than what I've heard some people say, I'm going to spend the rest of eternity with my twin flame, or wanting to be with my twin flame. Now, when you hear people say something like that, you have to come to the point where you realize just how uninformed and how very small-minded that person really is. And I'm not saying that in a disrespectful way, but that person actually is very small-minded, has a very small state of consciousness that's very limited in its perspective. And this is what we need to grow beyond. This is what we need to move beyond this situation. There's nothing wrong with being in a loving, harmonious relationship. There is something wrong when that's all you think about and all you desire for your total existence. So as long as that's all you want, then you never can incorporate all of your total selves into yourself to become this multidimensional being with all of the attributes and skills that are available to you in that perspective. So as you begin to incorporate some of these expressions of yourself, you have access to the skills and the abilities that these aspects have. However, you have to be at the point where you're open to knowledge and information beyond your present state. In other words, you have to be in a situation where you're not run totally by your ego. Your ego is a good thing to have, but it needs to be in its place. You need to understand that you, the entity right here now, is just one small piece of the total you. So once you start to incorporate some of these attributes, and these attributes are like aspects of personality that are developed, here is what happens. You then can make what I'm going to call a soul-to-soul connection with another person, all right? And in that soul-to-soul connection, what can happen is you can exchange information, as I previously said, with that other person. You can exchange knowledge. It's always a two-way street at a soul level, all right? One person may think, well, I don't think I'm quite at the same level that this person is, and this person seems to have so much more. Let me tell you something. Everyone, okay, and I said this before and I want to say it again, everyone on this planet, everyone without exception, has valuable experience. Experience is the golden jewel of existence on this planet. That's all you're here for, to experience, to learn, to evolve, to grow, all right? And as we do this, we open ourselves up to reintegrating all of us together again in that perspective. So what happens is you making this soul-to-soul connection with another person. Now, this is the important part. So this person starts feeling an exchange of energy going on between the two of you. And then they begin to feel different things taking place in their consciousness, all right? But the both of you know that you're not perfect. You still have flaws. You still have little aspects of your personality that are not perfect by any means of the word, so to speak. You know what I'm talking about. So you're concerned, well, I understand what Mel is saying, but gee whiz, I still have a little bit of a drinking problem. Or, I still have a little bit of I smoke. Or, gee, I'm prone to having panic attacks or anxiety attacks. If I'm going to template somebody else with my experience, am I not going to be downloading my own shit on them? And everybody's going to ask themselves that question. The answer is this. Again, I have to go back and keep reiterating on this point because some of you are still not understanding this. The event that everybody has been waiting for has happened. The event was that magnificent opening in the center of your chest, that beautiful heart center activation that started everything. All right? And that connection is a direct connection to source. Call it by whatever other label you want to. It is a direct connection to source, which in the beginning, and all of you will have to admit this, none of you knew what was going on. None of you could control it. And none of you knew what the hell to do with it. None of you, myself included. So now, after all of this time and years, as you've progressed, you're now in a situation where you're going to be offered the opportunity to be able to use it and use it constructively, even though you're not some divine saint or Jesus or Buddha or whomever, whatever, all right? You don't need to be that to do it, to use it, all right? All you need to understand that this here in the middle of your chest is the access or the doorway to source. Source will always be behind the scene, making sure you don't get your finger stuck up your ass, all right? Or you shove your foot in your mouth, all right? Or you screw it up, all right? Because there's a safety mechanism built in here, and I'll explain it to you this way. Let's assume here, I'm going to do a couple of hypothetical situations here so you get the idea. let's assume you're doing an exchange with someone who's been, let's say, tortured, okay? And that person has been tortured, and so have you in some other timeline or dimension or whatever. And one of you has overcome the situation. Now, torture, like sexual abuse, is a very traumatic, very dense, very intense, very painful situation. And it's not to be played with. However, if you're doing a soul-to-soul connection and you know you're exchanging back and forth, one has overcome it and moved beyond it and sharing with the other, what happens? Because torture is located in a particular chakra, okay? Sexual abuse is located in a particular chakra. Any kind of abuse, be it sexual, be it physical, be it torture, any kind of mental, okay, or mental disorder, all right, exists as a prominent feature in a particular chakra, all right? And mental disorders, actually, in fact, whether people know it or not, are usually associated with the third eye, all right? That's where they start, because in reality, what happens is, in order to be able to experience disorders, you have to be able to see it, okay? People think we think. There's nobody on this planet who thinks. We just think we think. We do not think, we see, all right? We cannot do anything, we see it. If you're depressed, you're seeing it, okay? If you're having an anxiety attack, you're seeing it. You cannot think it. You have to see it. We're a seeing species, not a thinking species, all right? That's the biggest illusion that we have, that we think. We do not think, we see. We can accomplish anything we want as long as we see it, all right? So when you have something and someone that comes along that short circuits the system, you see it. So when you see it, it has to take form. And where you see it is here in the third eye, because that's where most of us have been doing our seeing before, up here in our head. Seeing, okay? This is where we see. What I've been trying to do for the last 10 years, the last 5 specifically, is to get most of you to realize to stop seeing up here and do it here in the heart center, and you're still not getting it, a lot of you. Don't see up here, see here in the heart. That's where you need to see. And when you see here, you're manifesting, you're creating. Because when you do it here, because most of you are already at the point now where the emotional part and the chakras, lower chakras, have all been assimilated. You all know some of this stuff, all right? You're now in a situation where you can see but not hear anymore, so you're seeing it here, okay? So if you have, at this point, what you think or call a mental disorder, stop seeing it here. See it here. And they're going to say, well, what do you mean, Mel, see it here? If you have a mental disorder, or you're having a panic attack, or you're having an anxiety attack, all right, go into yourself, focus yourself to the heart, and see your attack, or whatever, taking place here. You know what you're going to find out? You can't do it, because it can't exist there. Immediately as you start seeing it here and carrying the emotion and the feeling of it there, it'll dissipate very quickly. All right? That's how you deal with your immediate response to things that are happening. For deep core issues, now, did you get what I just said? All right? If you're having a panic attack, you're having an anxiety attack, all right? Or you're claustrophobic, or you're hydrophobic, or whatever kind of phobia you have, all right? Stop seeing it here. See it here. Because most of you at this particular point have been in a situation where you've now gone through the experience of drawing that up and expressing it here. And that's what you need to do. Now, let's go back to the other situation. where you have the two people that were tortured, for example, in that particular situation. One has risen above it, and the exchange is going on. What's to prevent any kind of leftover residuals or other patterns that that person may have of filtering through to the other person? Here's what happens. The filtering or the exchange of experience can only happen here at the heart center chakra. It may be an experience that was experienced in the solar plexus, in the sacral, and the lower chakra. Could have been experienced in the third eye, could have been experienced in the throat center. All right. And what happened is it all has to be filtered back through the heart center chakra, which puts it into source's hand. It's no longer in your hands. It's in source's custody, and it filters out anything that would be left as a residual pattern between you and the other person. So there's no danger. You cannot do any damage to the other person. Here's the thing, okay? We have these wonderful, big, beautiful heart centers in the middle of our chest. And it's time for us to shit or get off the pot and start doing something with it, okay? Instead of continually talking about, oh, I'm working out my karma, I'm working out this and I'm working out that. All that crap is gone, all right? I want to place a reminder to everyone here, all right? What you're dealing with at this point, that some think is karma, that some think is leftover from past lives and all of that crap, is nothing more than residual templating left in the etheric body. Call it programming. That's all it is, all right? And that programming can be eliminated through a soul-to-soul connection with another person who's already overcome it, risen above it, moved beyond it, and can share that with you at this particular point. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, Mel, this is pretty esoteric, all right? No, it's not. It's basically very simple. And the advantage that you have is as you have progressed along, some of you have reached the point. I want to kind of add this in so I get the whole picture in here. So you may have to go back and kind of sort this around here because there will be some variations here, all right? From people to people, from culture to culture, from race to race as to how this works. So don't take everything literally that I'm writing this in stone because I'm not, all right? I don't want to convey that to anybody. I'm giving you a general idea of what is happening and how it's going to unfold. So when you incorporate these other aspects of personality, all right, these other aspects of personality or the entities or the beings, if you will, that do have a body, a form, and a shape, and the main core, there are 12 of them, all right? And each one of these will manifest and connect with one of the chakras in the 12 chakra system within your physical embodiment and will reside there. Now catch this, as what you might understand to be in your reality as being a higher self, okay, or a higher self personality for the guiding source or the guiding center for each of the 12 chakra system within the physical body until it's such time that it's no longer required, and then the person would feel the total assimilation of that 12, and they would no longer feel the chakra system as a whole because they've moved beyond it. So this is what's taking place at this particular moment. So if you're having a situation where you know you have a mental, I don't like the word dysfunction, okay, and I don't like the word disorder, okay. Let's call it you have a mental, what's a good word? A mental blockage? No, that's not good either. A mental, I can't think of one. All right, somebody think of one and give it to me or write it in the comments thing afterward. You have a mental opportunity that's seeking a different expression, all right? And you see it here, all right? And then what you do is you breathe, okay? Look, let me put it this way. I'm not an expert, but I do know the heart center can be used, and it can be used properly. If you can take your seeing ability here, and you can see the picture of the anxiety, the depression, the paranoia, the fear, the stress, you name it, whatever. And if you can see it here, you can see it here, then breathe it. Once you see it, breathe through here. In, out, in, out. In with the new, out with the old. In with the new, out with the old. Very simple, okay? What you're doing, as long as you hold the seeing and apply the divine breath, okay? When you breathe through the heart center chakra, what you are breathing is divine breath. You are connected to source. This is why when I train all of my practitioners, I teach them how to do this divine breath with a very simple technique of breathing through a flower, of which they create for themselves as a representative of the heart center chakra, in the middle of their chest. All right? And I teach them how to do this so they're breathing the divine breath so they can actually change the chemistry, the energetic templating of what's going on. You know, everybody says all of the answers lie within, and I agree. They do. But so many of us are, you know, becoming so knowing, okay? We're knowing ourselves right out of knowing, right? Sometimes it might be wise to stop and listen. There are some of us out there who are actually talking good stuff, all right? I'm not in the habit of spreading bullshit to people, all right? There are people out there who don't like me, and that's okay. I don't have a problem with it. But when I give information, it's for real information. It's not to control or manipulate anyone. It's there to be helpful. So when you do this in the heart center chakra, you're using this sword. And also what you're doing is you're supplying the energy or the mechanism or the means to continue the existence and the life and the containment of those 12 extensions of self, the opportunity to continue to grow, to evolve, and to awake in that particular situation. And this is the process that we're going through at this particular point in time. So as each one of these aspects link with the chakra system as a whole, as I said, they become like your higher self for that particular area of the body. For example, let's talk about the solar plexus for a moment. The solar plexus is the emotional center. It's also what I call, in many cases, where the access point to the little girl or little boy is inside of you. We live in an emotional experience, in an emotional world. Whenever you experience a trauma or anything that's kind of stress or negative, it's experienced in the emotional body. So you need a state of consciousness that can assist with the emotional body. It is a body. It must have higher guidance. It must have higher input. And you have aspects of yourself that have mastered that in different timelines and realities in this particular perspective. So therefore, this is what is happening. So when you have that opportunity for a soul-to-soul connection, all right, and I said in the past in the video, can you have more than one twin flame? And it stirred up a hornet's nest of reaction from people. People are so hung up on this obsession with twin flame, all right? And so much information that is so ridiculous has been applied all around it that the real process of evolution, the real twin flame journey, if you will, is actually being lost in the shuffle, all right? The real journey of a twin flame union, the real journey of a soulmate connection is being lost in the same old traditional belief systems that have been presented for year on year and year after year. So that when something that comes along that's new and different, everybody goes, oh, well, what the hell is he talking about? But at this particular point, with these soul-to-soul connections, they are there for the purpose of your growth and the growth of the other individual. And try to understand what I'm presenting to you. I'm going to give more information on it. And also I need some feedback here from some people. I would really like to know from people here. I'm considering doing a couple of webinars here, and I know I mentioned it in the past and I didn't get around to it yet. And before I end in this video, I want to mention it. If there's people out there who are interested in the general theme of what I'm doing and what I'm saying, soul-to-soul connections and templating and exchanging, and you would be interested in a webinar with practical applications to it, I would like to hear from you in the comment section, all right, in that particular situation, because I probably would need, I don't know, to do one, I'll keep the cost to reasonable, and I'm reasonable, okay, more than reasonable. I'll keep it reasonable, but I would probably need 25, 30 people to put one on, and I can do that in a relatively short space of time, so I just wanted to see if the interest is there. Okay, I'm going to stop the video here at this particular point because I think I've given enough at this particular time. I will do additional videos on this particular theme and topic with more applications of what you can do. But the thing to remember here is this is mental disorders. Mental disorders can be corrected and they can be exchanged. And when you do it from here, all right, and here's the other part. If any of you have been pharmaceuticaled, okay, pharmaceutical means that you've been diagnosed in some form of insanity and you've been pharmaceuticaled for any reason, you can eliminate the pharmaceuticals from the etheric body by a simple exercise and technique of which I will present at a later time because I've given enough in this one to do that. I just want to kind of titillate the fancy a little bit and give some more information on a later date. Okay, been a pleasure. Thank you everyone for listening. Have a beautiful week coming up. Thanks.